My overarching objectives for today was to first talk a little bit about the experience of going through pediatric cancer treatment and the impact on your finances and your financial impacts on your stress levels and your ability to focus on more important things. I think it's important that you realize that you're not alone and that other families are going through this, and it's very typical, but overwhelming. And then I wanted to also offer you some encouragement about a path forward and how to maybe organize yourself and take on this somewhat overwhelming task of trying to figure out your financial situation and then prioritize things, and also to look for resources to help. And my way of doing that is primarily going to be, at the outset, I want to share my cancer journey with you and the financial aspects of that in particular, in the hopes that it will help you recognize that almost anyone going through cancer treatment is experiencing extreme stress and difficulties caused by the financial situation. And I think just recognizing that you're not alone is helpful. It also helps you to realize that you can get to the other side of this, but it requires some time and effort. And I want to walk you through that a bit. So the last part of the presentation will be more about that framework or that process for you to utilize to move forward and do so at your own pace. But it also includes some tools and resources that you can turn to help with that process. So I wanted to spend some time with you on that, and then allow plenty of time for questions and answers afterwards for more specific issues. So unless anyone has questions or concerns, I'd like to share a bit about my journey and just how that has impacted our family. And, you know, how we managed to get to the other side of some of these issues. So going back in time to the year 2002, where I was 41, my wife was 37. We were both working in professional careers. We had 3 children, ages 5, 3, and 1. And we had a live-in nanny. And we both worked pretty hard, and were working diligently to try to establish ourselves financially so that my wife could stop working for a few years, because the stress level of maintaining 2 careers with 3 young children was a little more than we wanted to keep doing forever. And we were on track to do that. And then one day, my wife took my oldest daughter, Claire, to the doctors and to investigate why she had circles under her eyes. And immediately the doctor recognized the anemia symptoms and did some tests, and we found that she had ALL leukemia. So our world changed very rapidly, and the things that seemed so important before all of a sudden became unimportant, and all we could do was focus on getting her the care she needed. We had, just prior to Claire being diagnosed, we had taken on some financial obligations to help some of my wife's family, and we were stretched a little thin, and that was not our norm. We had always been a very conservative savers, and we had always allowed plenty of safety margin, but we had taken on some additional debt to pay for a second home for some of my wife's family, and that put us in a position where, without 2 incomes, we were under stress. After the initial diagnosis, we had a quick hospitalization for treatment, and then shortly thereafter, a second hospitalization for side effects. My daughter had colitis, which was life-threatening and really was extremely stressful. So neither one of us were working during that time frame, and our income dropped precipitously. And we realized at that time that only one of us could continue to work, that there was just no way that we could both work. And since my work had the health insurance, we really didn't have many options. I had to keep working, and my wife had to take time off, and that was it. And so we did that, but we also went into deficit spending because of that. And being conservative people and aggressive savers, to be in deficit spending really was one of the more stressful things I've ever been through. It just was not who I am. And I struggled with it mightily. I lost sleep for weeks. And what we realized was there was just no way we could change that picture anytime in the near future. So at the time, my employer was not thriving. And at the time, there was no Affordable Care Act. So there was no obligation for my employer to maintain our health insurance, which added additional stress. And all those things combined meant that we were in a bit of, we had stress on multiple fronts, and we needed to do something about it. So my wife suggested that we go to see our financial advisor, who we respected, and he helped us to organize our thoughts. And we pulled data together for him about our costs and our income under the new set of circumstances. And we sat and we worked through it all, and he de-stressed it for us and was able to analyze the situation with a cool head and basically point out that this was temporary and that we had the resources to deal with this. We just had to change our focus. And we did. And what we did also was we reached out to my wife's other family members and explained the situation, and they helped us out with the housing costs for her parents for months until we could right the ship. So if we had not reached out to our financial planner and taken a analytical approach to this, I think we would have just continued to stress for months. And that has a toll on a family already going through cancer treatment stress. And so I was very thankful for that, and it was very impactful. And at the time, I told myself that I wanted to revisit what my planner had done for us and consider that career path, because I wasn't thrilled with my career path at the time. And I had lots of time to sit around hospitals and think about changing my life going forward. So eventually I circled back to that. But bottom line was we were able to refocus on the priority of caring for Claire and her siblings. And that made all the difference in the world. And that's sort of what I wanted to share with you today, as maybe a path forward to do the same, with the assumption that you're dealing with some of the same kinds of issues we dealt with at the time. I know many people deal with much more stressful circumstances than we did, and I've always felt blessed that we had the resources to deal with this, but also recognizing that, you know, there's a lot of people out there who are in need of a lot of help, and it's not through no fault of their own. So I hope you're not one of those people, but just in case you are experiencing that type of situation, I kind of wanted to explain then what happened thereafter. I mean, we maintained that approach for about 3 years for the entire treatment, and we would trade off who was working and who was staying home. But ultimately, we were able to make a decision that I was going to retool my career in the direction of financial planning during the period that I was staying home to help with Claire's treatment. And I don't think we would have ever taken that on if it hadn't been for the approach we took with the planner to begin with. And I was able to go to graduate school and get my certified financial planner certification, and then search for a business to become a part of and make that change. And then ultimately, my wife was able to stop working as we planned all along. She's been out of the workforce for 12 years. So everything has come up roses for us. Claire is healthy. She's 24 now, and she's in a professional career, looking to go to graduate school for public health next year. We've made it to the other side, and I'm very thankful for it. But I also want to help other people who are going through this. So I've been in search of a way to do that for Special Love families for quite some time. I've been on the board for 15 years, and we've talked about the financial needs and stresses that families endure for that entire time. Finally, I found this initiative by the Foundation for Financial Planning to create more of a framework and resources for families going through this. And I'm trying to roll this out to Special Love families, and I want to review that with you a bit today. It's not perfect. It's still in its infancy, but it's getting traction. And it does help to organize all the different types of resources that are available to you in a way that you can maybe pursue that. So I want to get into the details on that today. So that's basically my story, and it definitely has had a life-changing impact on me and my family. I've enjoyed many years of working with Special Love and working with other families that are going through the same. And I want to continue to do that, but by focusing on this area of need. So any questions about that before I get into some of those details? Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen with the little light bulb. I don't want to do death by PowerPoint today, but I did want to hit a couple of points here. I think the first slide I've already gone over. So this header, "You didn't budget for cancer, no one does," I think is more important than we might realize. There's a lot of guilt and shame associated with financial issues during cancer treatment, and no one's immune from that. It may seem illogical or irrational, but I know most people go through it. And the more distress you're feeling, the more of that shame you may be feeling. And there's absolutely no reason for it other than we're human beings and we tend to focus on the negative. The first thing you have to do is try to get past the shame and the guilt and allocate some time and energy to analyzing your situation, gathering data, looking at it, acknowledging your situation, and then trying to find solutions. And according to the research I've seen, nearly 1 in 3 families going through cancer treatment are unable to meet their basic needs during that time frame. That's not an easy situation, and it just adds to your stress. And it's just, it's part of the game. And I don't think we acknowledge it well enough as a society. We don't provide enough of a safety net for families going through this. And we don't provide much assistance in sorting it out. So I'm hoping we continue to get better in that regard, but we don't want you to feel alone. You're part of the Special Love community, and we want to be here to help you. One of the things that I think is important is to not wait until you have a big problem to start this process. Many of us will either ignore or procrastinate on the issue because it's not a pleasant issue and because of the other guilt and shame issues that I mentioned. And oftentimes, if you wait until there's distress, then the problems are harder to solve and it puts more of a strain on you. So I'd recommend that you start as early as you can when you have the time and energy to start to pull together the information you need about your situation in order to get help. I think one of the big aspects of being able to start the process is just having the courage to face your fears. Most of us know in the back of our mind when there's an issue and when we have less income than we have spending needs. And there's not much motivation for us to address that head on because the stress is there and we don't want to just add to the stress. Unfortunately, that's exactly what we need to do. And that courage I don't think courage is an understatement here. It takes a lot of courage to do this. But with other people getting in the boat with you, I think you can overcome the fear and start the process. And that's the most important step, is starting the process. What I've provided on the website at Special Love is a guidebook by an organization called Family Reach. Family Reach is a 501c3 charity that's set up to provide financial counseling, financial planning, and financial resources to families going through cancer treatment. They are not limited to just pediatric cancer, but they are set up to support pediatric cancer families. And Family Reach is working with the Foundation for Financial Planning to connect professional advisors, CFP advisors, to Family Reach in order to provide pro bono or free financial counseling. And so you would be actually engaging with a planner who does this for a living and has the tools and the skills to help, and there's no charge. In the outside world, an engagement like that would cost anywhere between $2,500 and $5,000 in most cases. So there's real value there. Family Reach also provides resources and connections to other organizations like Special Love who support families who are going through cancer treatment. And they do so in coordination with pharmaceutical companies and health insurance companies, transportation, and social workers and child life specialists. So typically the way a person would get to Family Reach would be from a hospital social worker, and the hospitals have certain budgets set aside to help with this, and they would work with Family Reach to provide those services to the families. Child life specialists will also sometimes be involved in that, but that is their typical path to getting clients, if you will. What I'm trying to set up with Special Love is another ancillary approach where you can connect to Family Reach directly, and then Family Reach will provide you with that same counseling and resources that they would the families who are coming from a hospital social worker, for example. There's a link in this presentation here in blue, Family Reach Financial Treatment Program. It's sort of their introductory page where they're telling you what the qualifications are to work with them, and also the steps that you need to go through to engage with them. However, we also have a brochure on the page that you can use and call the 800 number, or you can reach out to Special Love or to me, and we will make a connection for you. Oftentimes, and I'm hopeful that we can do this, if financial planning is required or requested, they will connect the Special Love family to me to do the actual planning. That may not be true 100% of the time, but that's our going in plan. All right. So Family Reach is your conduit to get to some of these resources, and they're working hand in glove with Special Love to try to make this available to you. One of the things that they are doing, and this is now we're moving from the general to more of the specific roadmap or path that I think you might want to consider as your path to success here. In in order to really assess your situation, a financial planner or a financial counselor is going to need information. And they can't come up with that information without your help. And some of the information takes time and energy to pull together. An example would be a checklist of different expenses related to treatment that you have not experienced in the past. So for that, you would include things like insurance premiums and co-pays, as well as deductibles, out-of-pocket expenses. Other things would be medical costs not covered by insurance, wheelchairs, wigs, additional medications and treatments that may not be covered by insurance. Any out-of-network care costs, which can escalate very rapidly. And any out-of-pocket costs for medications. Those are all things that you need to estimate based on your coordinated plan with your care team, so that you have a number you can put with that. Secondly, you would want to assess your base living expenses, the things that you had before the cancer diagnosis and the things that continue on past that, whether that's mortgage or rent or utilities or cell phones or groceries, any child care expenses you have or elder care expenses you have because of treatment, and then of course your regular car insurance and gas expenses. Those things don't go away just because you're focused on your child's treatment. And then finally, there's ancillary costs like parking while at the hospital or overnight stays when out of town, or scarves, hats, wigs, meal costs while you're on the road, or counseling. And these things can really add up. So it's important that you assess approximately what that cost is going to be to you. The guidebook, I'm going to pull up here for a second. Okay. Can you see the checklist of expenses here? Okay. This is the guidebook, just starting from top to bottom, that I'm talking about. This is, again, is posted on the website, and you can take your time and work through it. But I just wanted to show you, these are some of the things that we just talked about in that earlier slide that you need to try to estimate. And it is meant to help you through that process. It may take you some time. So that's another reason not to wait too long. Okay, so let me go back. Okay. The other thing that the guidebook provides is some other resources that you might turn to, and links to those resources. There are many smaller organizations out there that you've never heard of that's mission is to try to support families going through cancer treatment. And this is attempting to provide links to some of those resources. It can be very overwhelming, and each organization has its own criteria and process. And I feel for people who have to try to sort through it all. It's not easy. But I think Family Reach can also help to winnow that process down and make it a little easier for folks. Just to be clear on this, Family Reach provides financial counseling on the phone, and they will help to pull together some of this information for you, in addition to connecting you to a financial planner who can then help you sort out your priorities. So there are two resources there. One of the things that is emphasized in this process is the importance of notifying your doctors, your social workers, your hospital finance directors of your financial picture. It's not at all uncommon for people to have a shortage of resources during the cancer treatment process. And the hospitals are aware of it. And there are resources that the doctors, the care team, and the social workers can turn to if they're aware. So I encourage you to share your situation with them. Another thing that many families find to be helpful is crowdfunding, which is sort of like GoFundMe. You may have seen requests for donations for families in various situations on the internet. GoFundMe allows your friends and family members to reach out on your behalf and provide resources to help you through some of the really rough spots. There's a link to best practices approach to using a GoFundMe account to try to do that. And then I can't emphasize enough that using a financial planner could really be impactful. However, it's only going to be impactful if you have taken the time to gather your data, look at your situation, and share that with your care team and with the financial planner. In that situation, the planner can be much more impactful than with just generalities. It's very difficult to do the job properly without the data. Okay. I think that's it for my formal portion of the presentation. I wanted to allow plenty of time for questions and answers, and that can be about the presentation or it can be specific questions about financial issues that you're experiencing.
You can use the chat box if you prefer not to voice your question out loud, or of course you can unmute yourself at any time. Mark, I'll lead off just with a quick question. You mentioned crowdfunding, like GoFundMe. Are those, in case anyone ever sets up that account and gets a question from a friend, are those payments, or I guess you might call them donations, tax deductible?
No. They are only tax deductible if they are going to a 501c3 charity. So for example, if someone were to send a donation to Special Love, to the Emergency Relief Fund, knowing that one of our families in the community needed those funds, then it would be tax deductible. But if they went direct to the family, they would not be.
And I should probably follow that comment up with the fact that you can encourage someone to donate to Special Love, but you cannot do so telling them that the money will then be given to you. In other words, we make our gifts out of the Emergency Relief Fund based on those guidelines, and you don't have to raise that money in order to receive it. And the good news is if you're on this call or participating in any of our programs, your eligibility increases. But there's not a direct correlation between whether you have friends who donate to Special Love and whether you get money for the Emergency Relief Fund. In fact, those have to be separate.
They do.
I'll just add here too that it's also against law for us to give a donation to an individual directed by somebody else. We're not allowed to make individual gifts like that.
Yeah, that would endanger our 501c3 status.
Right.
And Mark?
Yeah, Bill?
I just want to say that this is a wonderful initiative, and boy, the world needs it. A lot of what you said resonated deeply. And the part about, and Terry and I, we've always been in the past savers, but when you go deficit spending, yeah, there's another stress. I know that one. So this is really, really a great thing. The additional thing, and you hit on it, that I think is so important, but is so complicated for families, I think, is the insurance. I'm an accounting guy, and it was a third full-time job for me to keep track of all the explanation of benefits, what's really due. I had an inside resource at Georgetown that literally would take my calls. Otherwise, you're in a circle.
Yeah.
And so being on top of that can be just completely overwhelming if you don't have a background for it, for details.
And that doesn't even include the folks that don't have solid insurance that they can count on because of our current holes in our safety net. That's another situation that many people face.
Yeah.
There is a question in the chat box, Dave.
Yes, there is. Is this program available to families out of treatment or just for families currently in treatment?
It's sort of in between. There are parameters. Just like Special Love has parameters, this organization has parameters too. I know that people in relapse would qualify. I know that there's a period after treatment is over where families can qualify, but I've seen some limitations on it, and I can't quote it off the top of my head, but it will be included in that link that's the blue link that was in the PowerPoint slide. Those parameters are provided in there.
Other questions? I'm eyeing the chat box now. Thank you, Jan.
Okay, I see that Rebecca has a question in the chat box. So you have an 18-year-old son on your health insurance. Right now, the way our health insurance rules are, he's eligible to stay on that until age 26. There's talk of changing those parameters, but that's a political issue. And I think it's up in the air. But for now, it appears to be fairly solid that the age 26 will remain for the near future, which will allow you some time to sort this out. And I'm hopeful that in that time frame, there are going to be some improvements to our safety net for health insurance. It's obvious to anyone who's been through cancer treatment or anyone who has faced the loss of health insurance due to their employment situation that we just cannot go on like this. It just doesn't work. So I think it's been acknowledged that there are problems. We've had some problem dealing with it politically, but we're going to make some progress in the future. So I'm hopeful that by age 26, he won't have a problem.
Go ahead. Mark?
Yeah, Bill.
I'm going to actually, I'd like to talk about that one directly because we just went through this with Ryan. And this was a huge concern in our house. I carried Ryan right up till 26 years old, and the year he would turn 26. And we knew we had to have another option. And we went as far as we could get, went to 26, and I was fortunate to be able to provide the coverage. But in Maryland, and what isn't talked about here is a lot of these children will have late effect issues that make it difficult to go on and be gainfully employed and secure insurance. So Ryan actually works. He's working now 5 hours a day. And that's actually quite a test for him. And plus he's got doctor's appointments all the time. But because he makes less than, I believe it was 18,000, but he was at like 13,000 a year and he lives at home, that's not a parameter. He was eligible for the state of Maryland Medicaid program. And he's now covered under Medicaid, and it really has been a wonderful thing for the past year for him. I mean, we had to do some research and get him into it, but there are options like that depending on what the child's circumstances are.
It's worth 50, 60, 100. It's priceless.
Oh, you got
It is priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, for sharing that information with us. As I think someone else already said, this is critical information for those who need it. And I'm so glad that many of our families got on today. And we will make this available as a recording for families who didn't get to join this the session but need the information. And we will remain open to connecting folks to the Family First, option that Mark has discussed. And certainly Mark can also be available as a resource to help connect.
Yes, and also note his PowerPoint slide and the PDF he shared are both up on the slparents.org website. It's the second tab over that says Parents Resource. So it's all there if you need to go back and look.
And Angela, one thing I didn't provide to you was my contact information, and I need to do that. Should I just email it to you and you can put it on the last page of the PowerPoint or put it as
That
a
would be
separate
perfect.
document? Okay.
Yep, I can do that.
All right. So I'll just have a Word doc with my contact information.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining. We hope you'll come back for the parents discussion. The link for that is at slparents.org. So thank you again, Mark.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
everyone. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.